Father's Day, all the fathers out there.
You too.
Oh, yeah, me too. That's right. I have a couple of children. They're all grown up, so I don't feel like I'm doing much fathering these days. They're in their 30s now, both of my kids. But how many fathers do we have? Okay, so how many grandfathers? Oh my God, stand up, please. I know you don't want to admit it, but stand up if you're a grandfather. Okay, now, you grandfathers who are great-grandfathers, remain standing, and the other grandfathers sit down. Only one great-grandfather? Good job. Good job. Awesome. So what are some of the characteristics of a good father? Patience. Loving. Patience. Wisdom. That's important. Tenderness. How many men really work on their tender side? Be tender. Kindness. Humor. Courage. Strength. Patience. That was twice.
It's really important.
That's humor. That was twice too. So patience and humor are really good characteristics for a father. Forgiving goes along with patience. And compassion. Thank you. And teaching respect. Wonderful. All good characteristics. And the most important thing is all those characteristics go into the most important function of a father, and that is to lift up his children. To lift them up so that they feel like they're on top of the world, that they can do anything. To lift them up. When I was a young child and we used to go down to West Falmouth and swim at Chappaquiddick Beach and everything, and I was a little afraid of the ocean, my dad would just get me up on his shoulders, and then I would stand on his shoulders, and I would dive off of his shoulders. And I would feel like I was diving off a 100-foot diving board. I was the king of the world. With just this little boy diving off my dad's shoulders. And we would run like from one end of that beach all the way to Sippawisset and back. That's a couple of miles along the sand and back. And those are some of my first memories of living on Cape Cod, is spending time with my dad, lifting me up. You know, I'm not the tallest physical person in the world, but living with my dad and my mom, they really lifted me up a lot. I had no idea until I got to high school that I was so short. I thought I was like 6'5". I really did. And I was the best basketball player on the team. You know, and then I got to high school and they're all giants. I was like, am I on a different planet? Because my parents lifted me up so much, I felt like I was a giant. I felt like I could do anything. And I really think that is really the most important aspect of parenting or even being a friend to someone is lifting them up to their divine potential. Because your potential is limitless. And that's why we're here, to lift each other up. Because we'll never stop discovering our greatness. And I want us to just not fall back on our successes of yesterday, but really look to our accomplishments of tomorrow. Really look to what we can achieve when we lift each other up. And we really need to do it right now because there's so much of putting each other down going on in the world. And we need to demonstrate the opposite. I think it's one of the most important things to remember, that if we don't do that, we're not going to rise. We're going to stay. And the more we put people down, the more we go down. The more we judge others, we realize, you know what? I'm judging myself. Finally, I'm talking about myself. I'm putting myself down. I am not able to rise until I lift you up. Now, interestingly enough, this saying comes from a man called Robert Ingersoll from the mid-1800s, who was an author, he was a lawyer, he was a staunch abolitionist who believed that lifting up the slaves and freeing the slaves was the key to our nation rising up at that time. Yes, And Robert Ingersoll was also called the Great Agnostic. And the Great Agnostic was actually a congregational minister. I love that guy. He had it all. Now, agnostic is not, they don't believe in God. It's just, they say, well, I can't scientifically prove the existence or non-existence. So I'm going to believe in the experience that I'm having now. And my experience really is, if I lift others up, I'm going to rise. And it works every time. Whenever I'm feeling down in the dumps, whenever I'm feeling afraid, sometimes I'm afraid. I'm afraid of global warming, for instance, and climate change. I'm afraid of the attitudes that keep all of that out of the primary focus of our lives, to heal ourselves and our planet, because that is our primary focus. And anything that takes you off of that focus, you don't need it. To heal yourself, to lift those around you, that's my primary focus. And I'm inviting you to make it yours. Now, one of the things that I'd like to often bring in Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who were the co-founders of the Unity Movement. One of the things Myrtle said about spiritual development in her book, The Healing Letters, is the best way to help your brother or sister is to pray for him, to pray for her to be spiritually illumined. That's the best way to help anyone, no matter what they're going through, especially those that you may not agree with. If then he or she has come to a place in their soul development where they're ready to accept the truth, they will have an understanding and a desire to seek the indwelling Christ. So there first must be an understanding and a desire within the individual to seek that which is within the indwelling Christ. Otherwise, the desire is not going to be of that. It's going to be for the things of the world. It's going to be for uplifting the ego and the personality. But I'm going to tell you something. You have not begun to live until you expand your awareness to, I don't know how to do this thing, to expand your awareness to run this new wireless clicker. Thanks for helping me out, Leonard. An individual has not, this is from Martin Luther King. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concern to the broader concern of all humanity. How many believe that? Just about everybody. You're not living if you're just concerned with yourself. You're not living if you're just focused on what your needs are. You're not living if you're just talking about the past. And this is why I have all these problems, because I inherited them from my parents, right? Or I've been sick for 25 years and I'm going to get worse. And whatever you're telling yourself in those individualistic concerns, and whoever you're blaming for it, that's not living, my friends. You haven't started living until you can get beyond your individualistic concerns and really broaden out to the concern of all humanity. And then you realize it's shared, that your concerns are their concerns. And then you realize that by lifting others up, you're lifting up yourself. I think this is one of the best things he's ever said. There's another guy I often... yeah, we forgot to move Reverend Anonymous up in the... Is he? Okay. I've got to learn how to use this thing, right? Wrong button. This is all on tape, by the way, so when I fall on my face, it's in front of everyone. Luckily, you love me just the way I am. Luckily, there's only like 25 views at the most. But this is a guy I love to listen to once in a while, and because I think he's got some pretty good things to say. And what he told me recently is there's a great prescription for spiritual illumination, and that's to invite all others into the presence of the living God within you. Once you feel that presence of the living God within you, start to invite others, and then you feel it expanding. then you really do feel it growing. Then you really do feel who you truly are, because you aren't you by yourself. Remember Ubuntu? Remember that African saying? I am because we are. That's it. I exist because of us. I am me because we are. That's the whole core of the teaching of oneness, of broadening your concerns to include all of humanity. So the great prescription here is to invite all others into that presence of the living God within you. Regardless, this is the hard part, regardless of your opinion of them or their opinion of you. That's the part that I always have a little bit of trouble with. It's easy if you like me to invite you in. Oh yeah, let's hang out together. But if you're not agreeing with me and you don't seem to like me, it's a little more difficult to invite you into the presence of the living God within. It's easier at a distance, isn't it? But how about the presence right here, right now? It's a little more challenging, and that's where your mastery comes in. Now, I think a lot of you guys really are moving from spiritual students to spiritual mastery. And I think that's really one of our important functions as a spiritual center, is to help you to move from spiritual student to spiritual master. Ah, you like that one, huh? Rail. That's where it's at, my friend. Because then you're mastering your own experience of God, and then automatically you're able to share that with others, regardless of your opinion of them or their opinion of you. And so the great miracle then would be, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, not to walk on water, but to walk peacefully on the earth. If you're walking on the water and all by yourself, that's not that much fun. But if you're walking peacefully with everyone, that is fun. That is a joy. That is the pleasure of life, to feel connected to your neighbor and know that you're walking in peace together. So our task, and this is great because it comes from a scientist, our task must be to free ourselves, right? We want to free ourselves? Free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion. It sounds like a Buddhist more than Albert Einstein, doesn't it? But this is Albert Einstein. Widen your circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. Wow, that's a very spiritual thought. Those are the kind of scientists that I like to listen to. In fact, anybody who has any kind of scientific endeavor or study in their life is going to come to this point, because you will see that everything is one, that everything contains the same energy, the same essence that you do, that we cannot be separate from any living thing at any single moment. So let's widen our circle of compassion. Let's free ourselves from the bondage of judgment. Let's free ourselves from this constant battle with evil. What if there isn't evil? There's just a growth process. And all it really is more love and more love and more love and more love. Evil is just the absence of love. That's all it is. It doesn't really exist. It's not a real thing. It's just the absence, or I would say the unawareness of love's presence. So let's increase our circle of compassion. Let's widen it to include all living things. And that's how we'll be free. And do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. This is from an ancient text. This is from the ancient Hebrew text. Do justly now. This is just about you. Do justly now. And love mercy now. And walk humbly now. You're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. So do your part now. And be assured that in truth it's already complete. The only thing lacking is our awareness. the Talmud is a beautiful thing because it shows me that we used to do a lot more thinking than we do now. We used to do a lot more contemplative thinking, meditating, and prayer on our relationship to the universe and to God. Let's just walk humbly now. Let's do justly now. Let's love mercy now. We don't need to complete the work. Just do what we can do today. Do what is ours to do this day. I love that. So if you're going around judging people, you're not going to have a lot of time to love them. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but we have to watch ourselves. How much are we judging? How much? And all it really does is, what does it do? Take your time and attention away from loving others. Eventually it will come back. And you say, geez, how long did I spend creating that hell for myself? You'll come back to loving. It's the natural way. We're all coming back. The world is coming back. The world is awakening, my friends. And it's awakening because greater is the one who is in you than the one who is in the world. I think this is very important because we have developed this ego personality. And that's the one that we tend to project into the world. And we're afraid to be magnificent. You know, Marianne Williamson wrote something for Nelson Mandela, which was, you're not afraid of your littleness. You're afraid of your magnificence. You're afraid to be that amazing person that you are. You're afraid not of your darkness, but of your light. That's what you're afraid of. And so, if we realize that greater is the one in us than the one that we're projecting into the world, we can allow that one within us to be extended into the world. Just give your ego personality over to that. And you will be the unique expression of God that you are. You're just covering it up. It's like hiding your light, that's all. And what are we afraid of? Our own light. We're not afraid of the darkness. We love the darkness. Look at the world. We're creating we spend more money on weapons than we do on creating peace and growing food and helping people. It's crazy. It's just insane. We just look at what we do with our resources. Look at the planet. How much plastic is in the environment right now. Look at what we have done with this beautiful, amazing life that we've been given. And all it is that little unawareness that we're afraid to take charge of our own ego personality and give it back to God. So you can demonstrate through me the love that I am. It's the greatest ride ever. It's just fasten your seatbelts and step on the gas because Spirit is in charge. Every single moment, Spirit is in charge. Spirit will move you and tell you what to do. And it's so incredible, the amount of prosperity and abundance that flows through your life when you stop struggling against the so-called evil and allow the good that you are to flow through you. Because greater is He who is in you than he who is in the world. So here's a good question for you. How should I treat others? Yeah, you like that answer? That's the most quantum answer I could ever imagine. There are no others. It's easy to demonstrate. Want me to demonstrate it? Sure. I'll show you. Come here, Brenda. Come here. Stand right there. Hold this, though.
No, I'm not holding it.
Yeah, hold that.
You're the beautiful expression of myself.
See how that worked?
It's great. It's great.
I love it.
I love it. Mwah.
That's my job. It's over. You're the beautiful expression of myself. You are the beautiful expression of myself. Wow.
I have to remember that every day, though.
You are the beautiful expression of myself. How do we treat others?
There are no others.
There you go. That's pretty simple and so seemingly difficult for the mind that has accepted separation as its reality. So now, as we realize that we share in the same source, the same Father, same Mother God, the same divine presence, we can realize truly there are no others. And if we lift up others, we are rising up ourselves. That's why it works. We like to say those things, but the fifth principle of unity, it's not enough to know the truth. You have to live it. And in living it is how you experience it. When I lift you up, it really does work because there are no others, because I'm really lifting up myself. So remember, my friends, I'm going to leave you with this today. Whenever you meet anyone, remember it's a holy encounter. It doesn't matter who it is, where you are, what you seem to be doing. It's a holy encounter. As you see him, you see yourself. As you treat him, you treat yourself. As you think of him, you think of yourself. For in him, you either find yourself, my beautiful expression, my whole perfect self, loving, free, amazing, brilliant. I'm finding myself in you. Or you lose yourself. Whenever you meet anyone, it's a holy encounter. So lift him up, and you will rise. Be blessed.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass. And visit us online at www.unityoncapecod.org.